Hi everyone, welcome back to BARCastTV and to another episode of BARCast Daily. It is December 10th, 2023, and have a little bit of an announcement here before we get into today's episode. Just wanted to shout out one of a new upcoming tournament taking place next weekend, December 16th, 9 a.m. CST. This is going to be a double elimination 1v1 tournament, so if y'all are interested in kind of putting yourself out there, improving, kind of go over this format and the actual event. So this is organized by Jazz Cash. I'm sure some of you are familiar with him. He's a big team game player from what I understand, pretty high up there on the leaderboard. So this is a little bit different than some of the previous 1v1 tournaments. It's all these really large macro maps, which I'm pretty excited to see. So, we have Delta Siege Dry, The Ditch, Rose Crown Canyon, Jade Empress, right? So these big macro maps we're going to be seeing. And then finally in round 8, Supreme Isthmus is going to be the last map. So pretty wild to see. I'd welcome you all to or encourage you to sign up for this and, get some good practice against some really high-level players. You can take a look. There's not a prize pool so far, so I'm just going to put out there. I'm going to donate $20 to this prize pool. Hopefully that incentivizes maybe some of you to throw some in. So if we can look at these players, just wanted to put this out there. We have Andy's, Low, Taku. I'm currently registered, but I don't think I'm going to be able to play this day, unfortunately. Lopaka, Yudi, aka Chisato, aka Free for All Time, something like that. So yeah, I was going to put in $20, and I just want to say, if you guys have seen these guys in the client, if you've watched their replays, if you learned something from them, right? So maybe you just throw in a couple bucks, $1, $2, $5 goes a long way just to show your appreciation and thanks, to the tournament organizer and to the players themselves. So yeah, go for it, guys, and see you in this match, and maybe I'll cast one of your replays. So yeah, I'll leave in the description the link to this challenge page, and y'all can go get yourselves registered. So good luck if you do play, and see you around. That being said, and close this window, and maybe, is that going to, okay, there we are. So, into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. Your man Goopy here, who's in the red pieces, we haven't seen him loaded out onto the map yet, here he is, asked me to give him some pointers on maybe what he could do to change his map or improve his play. Goopy is really high up on the leaderboards, actually, so where is this invert mouse? Is that? Yeah, so he's way up there on the leaderboards. I'm not sure exactly what advice I can give Goopy that he might not already know, but it definitely helps to have kind of a second eye, a second ear to, bounce questions off of. So his opponent today in the blue pieces is going to be none other than Zlo. So both these guys are, I believe, top 10 on the leaderboard. So yeah, shout out Zlo if you're watching this or have any comments yourselves or remember this game you played. Feel free to leave a comment, and yeah, just want to say thanks to everyone who's been watching, leaving comments, subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate the feedback, encouragement, and you guys watching the videos. So really makes me incentivized to continue making them. I will say, kind of selfishly, I did enjoy making the last video about Teddy. I learned a lot in that episode, and I hope you guys did too. So that being said, let's take a look here. This is going to be Delta Siege Dry, which frankly is a fantastic 1v1 map. And Goopy, I'm not sure why he just chose to spawn here. I'd argue Zlo's positioning is probably slightly better. But maybe just like a couple thoughts. It's like these expansions are super far away, so your options for expanding with construction bots are all like very far away. Like say if you spawned here, obviously you have like a much shorter distance with, either expanding with your commander or your cons. So, and also you have the access to the 3 metal deposits. So not sure why you spawned here, or I mean, I guess obviously you're kind of closer to the middle of the map, which makes sense in some ways, but I think spawning here is better for a lot of reasons. I will say that being able to get into this lane, both of these lanes kind of like equally quickly with your units and infrastructure, I think is pretty important because It's not too much of a choky map, but it seems like there's a different theater. Like this northern plateau is its own theater and something to contest over, as well as this low ground we have in the middle. So just my 2 cents, and yeah, we'll get into this match here. Hopefully we can maybe spot a couple things you could improve on, and I'm going to switch this to your player camera, or player view at least. I think the player cam is a little bit too jumpy for these purposes. So I see you went your solar collector, which is really nice, super stable open. Sometimes you can get baited with the wind. There's some players going back and forth. Maybe Goopy is kind of projecting where he's actually started. So how are we actually going to open here? Pretty interesting to see. One thing to note on this map in particular, if you're not aware, is these energy, like all these reclaim on the map that gives you energy. So another maybe reason to start here is you can go for that early res bot, and you have a really stable energy open here. There's this big patch over here and a big patch up there. You can, you know, easily defend and supplement your early eco on a map that has not the worst wind risk, but I think it definitely helps stabilize any kind of open. So I see you're going up to 6 wind turbines, then you're burning through your E. Really cool play for those of you who don't do this. Kind of just like pull this up and then burn through it, assisting out your factory. They're going to continue adding on these wind turbines, coming back here and assisting the factory with your construction bot. And we have, what is this, 2 more coming out. Looks like wind isn't really cooperating, so gonna make another solar collector. I don't hate this, really strong, honestly. Using that build power, using that starting mass to stabilize your economy. We're on 2 mexes, which is perfectly fine for a bot lab open. They're much more energy intensive than wind. I mean, grunts are only 36 metal apiece, so seems like we went double con. This is 3 grunts, a nice little forward radar here. Give you the information you need to put your units, and we're fanning out our grunts. One's going to this high ground here. Where's this one going? 4 grunts so far. So looks like we're just checking on these potential expansion locations. I like this move here. I think you might have actually been able to do this, and maybe the 5th one goes back. It's maybe just, it's not the biggest deal, of course. So yeah, we end up getting our 3rd construction bot out. I think one thing I like to do, I don't mean to criticize you, Goopy, I know you're a really strong player. I'll just speak to my own experience and opinions in some regards. So if you're going to be moving out with your early commander, I think it's best to replace that build power with a construction turret. So you moved out very quickly with this, and I would argue that, hey, if you had built a construction turret, we definitely have the metal for it. We could have used 1 or 2 of these cons to actually expand out onto the map. So just my 2 cents. Something we could have done differently in this really early game. I think early game mistakes obviously compound as over the course of a long macro game, so the more we can button up these early game things, the better. So still no expanding construction bots. I'm wondering if your intention is to play like a forward factory. I actually see you do that a lot. So and I'm not quite sure how you would describe your play. From what I've seen of it, you're definitely more of a micro aggressive player than what, I mean, I'm sure you can play all the styles, but I think if I were to classify you, it'd be more of like a micro based aggressive player than someone we'd think of like maybe like a who's like a big macro player. Maybe like Mighty Sheep. I just know he picked that huge map in the finals of that previous tournament. So I guess that was a long ago now. So we're adding on extra wind with the 4th constructor. I think this is almost standard in some ways. If y'all, or if, for those of you who are watching, I think this is a decent rule of thumb. Like your 4th constructor, whether you're playing vehicles, whether you're playing bots on wind maps or solar maps, I think just having the 4th con scaling your E is a pretty stable way to go about things. Haven't been doing the best job of like keeping an eye on these forward units we've been using. We have some 5 grunts going to the north. I like this. Players can build LLTs and radars up here, so if you can kind of stop that from happening, it's a really big pick off here. So these early units might be able to might be able to get, prevent that from happening. So looks like you moved one of your grunts down south to this farther lane. Finally have some expanding construction bots going out. Sorry, I haven't been really keeping an eye on that super well. Just trying to... Yeah, I'm going to just pause the game, turn off the player camera, and look at see how these two opens are. So you're 300 metal behind so far. Zlo already has these 3 mexes captured, these 3 mexes captured. So he's up to 9 mexes where you're just still sitting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pretty far behind there. Look at this radar positioning. Dear God, that's gorgeous. I mean, come on, look at that. Really cool to see. He has his early res bot out. He sucked up all this energy over here. He's going after that and probably possibly going back here. So really cool to see this open. His commander's still sitting in the main base, has his construction turret up, and is just about to burn through his starting mass. So really clean open here, I think. The one saving grace, obviously, is like look how close your commander is to his main base. So this can be a tough style to play against these really aggressive comm walkers, I suppose would call it. Definitely need to be patient. Need to not take bad fights, essentially, like right next to this commander. Nice little pick off there by Zlo. He's gonna lose 2 grunts for it. Looks like one's gonna go down and not the other one. So rightly so, backing up with its own con. You're gonna be trying to repair some units here, interesting enough, and really start applying the pressure here. So let's go back to your main base. Looks like we have the construction turret up. Really cool to see. You're moving out with a double construction bot gang to the top of this plateau, and I'm assuming this one is expanding down south. So I really like how you've gotten into your expanding construction bots, but if we can contrast it against Lowe's, it's like maybe this is the amount of map he's got secured, whereas like, well, I know you're kind of like folding this into your maybe base, but it's like so far I really would just kind of declare your base or map presence just to be in this small oval. So I think Zlo's done a little bit better of a job expanding, and that would just be a function of the fact, like, his base is so much closer to all these potential expansion locations. So whether or not it's in the top theater as we described or the bottom theater. So yeah, once again, if y'all are seeing anything that I'm missing or have any of your own comments, please feel free to let us know in the comment section what you think I'm missing, or perhaps what Goopy could have been doing differently. So notice how on his factory he set the repeat command for those lower level players. This is a great way to kind of set it and forget it. But yeah, 1 con, 4 grunts on repeat. A little bit more, I think more standard would be like 5 grunts, 1 construction bot, but it's such a big macro map, I don't mind getting out the extra build power. Interesting enough, you're not adding LLTs. I think this is pretty greedy. I tried experimenting this with myself, is going for this style. We see that's exactly what Zlo's doing, like, no LLTs here. I mean, we just have the 1 radar here and then a 1 radar here. I will say it works a little bit better for Zlo in a sense, and maybe if we came back and watched more of the replay, it's like he has complete vision of any of units that could come into this area, right? So he can very well deflect it or get units in the correct location to protect these mexes, so to speak. So he even has kind of preemptively like an arc of units here, arc of units here, arc of units here, and that's preventing any of the run-by locations, and he can just naked expand for free and get up a bigger economy much more quickly. So contrast this to this style. It's like, yeah, you're naked expanding, you're doing the same thing. I actually see you've got some exploiters queued up on those mexes. I think these are all regular mexes, yeah, so no exploiters on any of these. I would say just like add the LLT here and at least an LLT here, at least an LLT here, just for the fact that we haven't have radar vision this entire time. So there could be units back here that he could have hidden units back here, and we really wouldn't have known it. Granted, this radar, I suppose, I mean, he could slip by. It's not like he knows that's a little area, but as far as I'm concerned in these kind of games, like against someone as strong as Low, it's like if it can happen, it will. He's gonna hide units on you. He's gonna find a way to get in and find damage. So this is a little greedy. Let's see if that comes into play later on in the match and you end up losing a little bit of your economy to run by. And here we are, yeah, so Goopy style forward factory. I will say I stole this from you on some of the other maps like Red Comet. I kind of emulate this same style. But this can be tough to play against. We're stalling on metal just a hair. I'm wondering if there's anything we could have done to get that factory up quicker. I know early game, if you're making these solar collectors to balance out your E, you can reclaim them with your construction turret at some point. So like wind has been cooking, we're at plus 16, you have a decent amount of wind turbines. It is a little bit of a gamble to reclaim those. You don't have that base E, but say if you had 1 or 2 res bots out, it would have been perfectly fine or comfortable to like reclaim both these solar collectors and, you know, giving yourself an extra couple hundred mass to finish this factory, not stall that with your commander. And then we're going to be moving right into pounder production, where I think I remember seeing this like this unit composition you tried, pounder grunt versus Andy on Sir Tagada. Don't ask me how I remember that, but you end up winning that game. So I thought it was a cool style, a little bit of splash damage on your own units with the pounders, but I think the grunts do a great job of stopping that flanking damage. So we're taking a little bit of a trade here. This is a nice fight for you, shaving off our attacking that at a good angle. This might, I mean, I'll say it for now, for those of you who this might not be completely obvious, if there's like a line of units or defense or LLTs, if you make a line perpendicular to that and attack in, obviously all of your units can be shooting and only one of theirs can be shooting at one time. So if you see an arc like this, attack it like that. Okay. I'm sure, Goopy, you know that. That's what we just saw. And then, yeah, now these pounders are coming out. You're sending them down south. I'm assuming this is to kind of cut off units filtering out this way, or you're just wanting to attack the army, you know, is sitting right here, which we can see on our radar. Look at this radar positioning. Dear God, that's beautiful. Got another one coming up here, protecting that with an LLT. So let's go back to the player view and just look at your units. So I do appreciate this style. Putting this pressure on, so much pressure at the front, gives you an opportunity essentially to expand for this for free. Maybe you were anticipating this being easier to defend just based off of the fact that you were going to be putting on so much pressure here in the front. So it looks like we made 2 pounders initially, 3 pounders, and then we're moving into incisor production on repeat. And lo and behold, look, the wind is going down. What a fool I was to think these 2 solar collectors weren't going to be useful still. Looks like we're even adding on solar collectors to begin with. I will say, for those of you in this position, like, okay, wind stalling, I have some mass in the bank, I have a construction turret and 2 cons, right? I think you could have been a little bit better about using the build range of these units. In these situations myself, I'll take this, say I would take this con, add on a solar collector, I'd take this con, add on a solar collector, and then tell the construction turret to assist one at least. And of course, if you have more construction turrets, more constructors, you can do the same thing. Just spam out like 5 or 6, maybe not much on 321 middle, but spam out like 3 or 4 solar collectors and then tell your construction turrets to start assisting those. And a little bit of a quicker, cleaner way to balance your eco when the wind is dying like this. A little micro intensive, but I still think it's good. So you're taking a bit of a bad trade here. These units weren't synced up. You ended up losing 1 powder. Is this one gonna go down? Maybe not, but I feel like we could have done a little bit better job of protecting that pounder. And you see that your opponent actually has medium tanks out. So usually, like, medium tanks do very well against incisors, so it's kind of unfortunate wind is so low at the moment. I really think opening bots on this map, you'd be, it's just a little unfortunate you didn't make the res bots. They're so strong. Let me just pause this and turn off player view, and we can look at the statistics and see, like, well, how much you've overflowed compared to him, how much energy produced compared to him. I don't know if this like shows how much E has actually been reclaimed, but I mean, let's just say for to kind of estimate this, his resbot has reclaimed all this energy on his side of the map, and we can take a look and see, well, like, how much is over here. So that's like 9,000, you know, about 12,000 energy. For context, grunts are about 880, so maybe like 8 or 10 or 8 more grunts. Could have made a big difference. Like, you could have overwhelmed this position. You could have stopped this construction turret going up. I don't know what intentions Zillow has. Maybe he's going to put these twin guards here and take the Geo. But This is a style. It's like you pork up one area. This one seems like a little better because it's so narrow, and then you send your units to the opposite side. So pretty cool to see. I don't know if that's like exactly what Zlo is thinking, but just like you can kind of take that as you will. I really like this construction bot. Seems very far ahead of his. And are we even on metal at this point? I actually forgot to check that. So about 1K behind. Not the biggest deal 8 minutes into the game, but like where are we falling behind? We have starting to accumulate a lot of mass. I think that's just because wind was so low for a while. I like how you queued up these advanced solar collectors. Those are going to be coming online. We're going to be scaling our build power for a moment. That's kind of cute. You just start the construction turret and then go back to starting the, go back to assisting the lab. I'm a big... This is interesting to see. So just my 2 cents, like Goopy, kind of looking at this game so far. We're 9 minutes in. You've gone for this forward factory, cool, putting a lot of pressure on your opponent. You're stopping him from expanding into this area, but like look at the economy he has behind it. He's got this plateau. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 mexes, 11 mexes, 14. 18 mexes. I mean, that's a strong economy, right? I mean, he's sitting on almost 50 mass per tick, almost double the amount of eco you have, right? So it's like, what was the intention behind this? Like to put on pressure and to stop, maybe perhaps prevent your opponent from expanding onto this like low ground theater. But what have you sacrificed for that, right? Let's back it up to the very start of the game, you know. I don't mean to harp on this too much, like you might have never spawned here again, right? But say, I'll just like tie this into how I like to play. And so say we went bot lab here, right? And you can expand, you can lock up theaters, you know, get good radar coverage, right? Prevent run bys, all the get out the res bots, everything, right? I think bots are better on these large macro maps, but it's like, what's the follow-up, right? Once you get past 30 metal per tick approximately, I would argue on these maps going for an air factory is going to be much better for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you can scout with the air scout. You can get a transport out, which really helps prevent commander snipes or just getting your commander to like important areas. Say there's a big reclaim field forming, you know, we're 9 minutes into the game, you can kind of quickly get your commander to where you want him to be. You can use the paralyzer drones, which I would argue buys more time, like as the bot player versus vehicles. I think you're on a clock in some sense once they get into medium tank production. Drones are pretty bad against medium tanks, and I will say that paralyzer drones can extend the usefulness and utility of bots for a longer period of time. Like you can come in here, take out these paralyzer drones, and attack in with a bunch of grunts. You can, I don't know if you can really sneak past this at all, right? It's pretty tight up choke, but say if the game looked a little different, like you had expansions here and here and here, and he has the option to attack into any one of these, it's like, well, suddenly you can overwhelm and take a really strong fight, you know, 10 minutes, 9 to 10 minutes into the game with, you know, 6 or 7 paralyzer drones and 20, 30 grunts. So I think for those, well, and then I guess lastly, like we talked about, you can get the scout out, which is nice. You can get the transport out. You can get the paralyzer drones. And then lastly, of course, we have the access to the bomber tech, and which just like the threat of air would force him to put up anti-air turrets. You see, actually, Zlo's going for a aircraft lab. So, and then, of course, like fighters, like you have access to fighters. So it's like, if they're going for paralyzer drones, well, you have the counter for that. If they're going bombers, you have the counter for that. So I really think that access to the air lab in these big macro maps, it's like first factory bot lab, of course, second factory air. It's like air has so much utility and so much usefulness, so much harassment potential. It's just like something I'd work into your game. My 2 cents. It's like we have this forward lab at the cost of the cost of really, not sure how to say it. Like, it's strong, like putting so much pressure on your opponent, but I really think you'd be better served trying out a different style. And like, here we go. Like, this is kind of a disaster in this regard. Like, a single grunt comes through and it's going to take out these 2 construction bots. And hey, a 1 paralyzer drone would have tidied that up, cleaned it, paralyzed that, so you can get some grunts into position to deal with it. Maybe these grunts come back. So here we are, dead even on metal, which I'm assuming is like, well, you have access to this whole low ground, so at some point you can get more of an economy over your opponent. And I see you're moving a large contingent of forces here onto the high ground. So nice little group of grunts and incisors. Maybe what you don't know is like, hey, there's 2 twin guard turrets here. We'll have to see how well those deal with such a large little attacking force. We're lining up our pounders here. This is going to make it pretty hard for Zlo to break out of this position if he wants to. And hey, back to our earlier conversation. A single grunt has taken out 2 constructors, and it's going to be 6 mexes. It's like Zlo got a self-D off on one of these LLTs. And this is a nice little catch here, actually, cleaning this up. I'm wondering if you're going to be able to get on the high ground here, but hey, Zlo sees a run bias coming through, and look what happens. Paralyzer drones are on the build queue here, so it's really going to help mitigate or slow down that little run by attempt. I hear a lot of shots going on, so I'm just trying to follow the action. Yeah, this single grunt has gotten 8 kills. That's wild. And look, another little run by slipped through here even. So all this naked expanding, which was efficient and clean at the start of the game, I think might be kind of biting yourself in the butt here in a minute. So yeah, these paralyzer drones, the threat of it shuts down this run by. You have to retreat, pull back. All you did was clear out a couple of mexes and a little bit of static defense. I do like how you're expanding, like to here, right? Okay, that does make sense if you have 3/4 of the map, right? Okay, sounds cool, but I think that you have a lot more E per second, or a lot more mass per second. But like, this is a big problem. Nice little bombing run there, takes out a lot of E. And you've finally chosen to push up this hill into LLTs, which pounders are hilariously bad against LLTs. It's kind of funny, honestly, how bad they are. And yeah, you're forced to retreat, and that's going to show your back. And now these paralyzer drones are going to get on top of your units. Not really what you want to see. Trying to stop this bleeding here. Zlo's getting a scout off. Now he's in the back line, staying away from your anti-air. He's just going to continue picking off your economy here with this low health bomber, assuming he's going to be targeting your mexes. Scouts taking out pounders with paralyzer drones. What am I watching? And now Zlo's punching back, right? So this plateau, this second theater, he's vulnerable to this little tank run by here. He's gonna be able to clean up those exploiters, I think. Those couple of mexes. I know you said you were kind of memeing here at the end. We'll have to see what you what actually happens in the context of this game. Yeah, and suddenly the advantage you have is kind of gone, right? It's like we've lost all this. We've lost your expansion over here. This expansion construction gang is gone. These mexes are getting picked off. He took out the one construction bot there, making that LLT. And all these mexes are gone, right? So it's like, well, suddenly the metal income is even. You're still up on metal produced, right? But it's like you're, I think you're behind in tech, obviously. He's free to fly around the map with these bombers and find damage, and of course he's getting run-bys with these tanks. We're getting damage with this tank run-by, which, you know, this number of medium tanks is pretty hard to deal with. I'm sure your own paralyzer drones would kind of help clean that up. And we're attacking up this high ground, which I think wasn't, like, this isn't really important. It's like, why do you feel obligated to attack up this high ground, which I believe the whole purpose was to just contain him below it from moving into this low ground, right? So, and on the back line we have these medium tanks clearing out your anti-air bots that are designed to like protect your army from like being dived on by paralyzer drones. So hate to see that. Just a couple of medium tanks slipping by. Scouts in the back line. I mean, this is just classic slow. He'll find damage if you let him. They did a really good job of splitting these tanks up, right? So, and I guess you like feel like you're forced to attack here in some regard, but it's like you really can't. I mean, look at this, like so many LLTs. You're right in front of his production, and I guess the whole thought process behind this was maybe containing him. I don't know if you ever really intended to attack up that hill. So I will say I think this game is getting close to being over. I know you have about the same number of E. You're getting your third factory up. You've got a decent amount of build power here in your main base, but obviously we can contrast this with your opponent who's got a lot of build power, you know, 5 construction turrets up, 6 next to his vehicle plant, which makes a big difference. I don't think you have any next to yours, so he can get, you know, he can dump his mass into these tanks a little stronger. So perhaps the one weakness as the game goes on from this like forward factory style is like unless you start like adding on construction turrets here, which I think it might be a bad investment, like so close to his base. Like if you end up losing that, obviously it's like, you know, terrible. So seems like you're reclaiming this factory. Seems like you're reclaiming the factory, and thinking you're going to be retreating. Not sure, or are you just using that metal to go for? I think what you're intending here is a commander snipe. Actually, I've seen Taku do this a lot. Whether he's like winning or losing, but I mean you have to win the game somehow, or at least try and win it somehow. Do you know where his commander is? I don't think you do. Maybe these energy converters are kind of a giveaway that the commander is about in that area. So. Got a nice little Resbot gang running around, but I think even like this, like these could have been split up. Like we saw, like you lost a constructor over here. There's 2 over here on the high ground. You could split these up, try and turn these mexes back on. And here's like this real, like I don't know if I need to harp on this point too long, right? It's like, but radars in these positions are just wild. I mean, like look at this radar coverage. He lost this one on the high ground here. I would like to see one here, but is there one at this low ground? Did you take that out somehow? Regardless, I guess the point I was making is like these radars here, here, and here. It's like this is never going to happen. Like these units here, instead of like kind of, you can't send these resbots in blind, right? Because you don't know where his units are. Even if he was like hiding some here, that would just be terrible. Like run a resbot up and like resurrect this, and then he finally comes back in and kills your units with that. So I think spawning up here, specifically on Delta Siege Dry, it's like you want to like split the map. I think that's like your main goal, obviously. Like split the map, at least get the same economy as him, and then you can start like picking him apart. Essentially, it's like, well, and it's kind of contextual to the game. That part I might not be able to help you with so much, but I really think like on these big macro maps, it's like you want to spawn in a relatively safe place, split the map, get your radar up, and then start, you know, obviously get to Tech 2. So kind of my 2 cents. Let's unpause the game and see where this goes. Just continuing to make these bombers. So you've got a couple of scouts coming out. Slow slipping out more units. I mean, look how much damage he got done with like 10 tanks, a couple of scouts, and a grunt. It's like, I mean, even continuing to do damage with this. This is wild. Paralyzing this single LLT so these 2 scouts can come in and clean up your economy. Pretty cool to see. Commander taking out paralyzer drones. Does this stop them from generating income? Wow, that's so cool actually. These paralyzer drones pay for themselves. I mean, think about that. How much mass are they? 58 mass. the mexes produce 3 per tick, right? So what is that, like 20 seconds, and that would pay for itself essentially, turning off your economy that way. It's like you're chasing like all of these 3 tanks with your entire army. Yeah, and here we go. Here's the bombing run. Unfortunate for you, he has a decent amount of anti-air. He's got a couple of fighters out. Looks like you're avoiding the main base or just kind of flying over. Nice bombing run here, taking out all that build power and a lot of E. Cool to see. Let's see how the second run goes. See, like, imagine if you were getting this damage and you had this half of the map, right? So, I don't want to harp on you too hard. Or what you think. I'd be curious to know what you think you did wrong in this map, or in this particular match. So you're running your grunts, your mobile units to deal with these run-bys here. Keeping your tank army in the front. Where did our commander go? Up here, okay. And we're teching into T2. Do you end up going T2 bots first, or... And we're stalling on metal, so you're trying to reclaim this bot lab here for a little bit of metal to finish up this T2 lab. Yeah, so we do advanced constructor first. One thing I would say is like having access to the transport actually on on this large of a map out, you can get 2 of these construction bots out, and then like you could fly one of them up to this and like start making all these T2. I see your first one you told to go down here and start upgrading these mexes, right? So on such a large map, I don't think having 2 upgrading construction bots going T2 is like the worst thing in the world. And like look at this huge army. So I don't know if he exactly knows your commander's up here, but he's definitely anticipating some units from coming up here. Kind of a little bit of an overkill response in some ways, but maybe he just wants to end the game. So we go combat engineer. Just can't make T2 mexes, can they? I wonder if this was like before the Twitcher change here, but yeah, you're getting these, getting 5 of these out. I'm wondering if you're just gonna reclaim your lab and then start making more units. But yeah, here comes the tank push, and really you can't stop this. This Dragon's Maw turret's gonna turn on, probably quickly be destroyed. And desperately trying to get your commander out of here. Let's say the aforementioned transport would help you get that back online, and yeah, this is pretty much over. So I'm not sure exactly like what are the key takeaways. Different spawning location, your intention on these big large macro maps, and I really think second air is the bet. Like bots into second air is the way to play it. Zlo thought differently. I think he went bots into vehicle labs into second air, but I think you can do the 1-1-1 and just do bots, air, land factory. So that's about it for me. I don't want to harp too much on you. I don't think more of this is worth analyzing. We'll just 2x this, watch your commander go down in glorious detail. Yeah, and GG. So well played, Zlo. Thanks Goopy for sending this in. And yeah, if y'all want me to analyze your own games, I have a couple in the works here. But yeah, feel free to send them to me. I'll leave the email description in the link below, and hope to see you guys out there. So good luck, commanders, and see you in the next replay.